This is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you I didn't see this one coming. Welcome in. We are live here on this Wednesday and a jam-packed show for you guys. Appreciate you making A to Z part of your everyday sports listen here in Atlanta. We are free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. Braves within 2 games of the New York Mets as they go for a sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates today. We will talk about their great run that they have returned on as well. Tour Championship, FedEx Playoff Cup, East Lake getting underway starting tomorrow. We'll take a little preview look ahead at that as well. And we've got plenty of other news in the sports world to get to. But I wanted to start with the Falcons today. This was, when I say I didn't see this coming, I didn't see this coming. So Bill Barnwell, who I think is an excellent writer and reporter for the NFL for ESPN.com. I've had him on my show several times over the years. I think he's really, really smart. Yesterday he put out a column predicting NFL teams that are most likely to improve in 2022. And it's called like numbers and data and everything else. So there were 5 teams on there, and I was almost like semi-curious to see maybe somebody thinks the Falcons will improve. And of course they weren't on the list, and I didn't think that much of it. It wasn't that big of a deal. But today, there is another column out there from Barnwell that is the opposite of this one. It is 5 teams that are most likely to decline, teams that are going to lose more games than they did the year before. And the Falcons made this list, and I'm not really sure how. To me, I was rather surprised. Now, again, by any metric, the Falcons losing 6 games and going 6-11 is less games than they won last year. But all the other teams on this list were playoff teams from last year: Packers, Raiders, Steelers, Titans. And the Falcons make the list. So I want to go over some of this with you because some of this I think is a little bit slanted and surprising the way they're looking at it. But there is some truth to some of the things that they're saying. In that sense, one of the stats he points out is that the team was outscored by 146 points, which is 8.6 points per game. No 7-win team in league history has posted a worse point differential, and that's cheating because of the 17-game schedule. So no 6-win team in league history has posted a point differential worse than Atlanta's minus 146 mark. Okay, now, you start to part and parcel this. You look at a couple of games. There were 2 games they lost by 35 points. So let's just take that 70 points. And even if you lose by 20, bring it down 30 points to 35 points to a minus 111. Are they as bad? No. Does 1 or 2 games severely slant that number? Yes. He says Atlanta finished with just 4.9 expected wins, which ranked it 30th in the NFL. And they got away with some late wins. How did they go 7-10? Well, he says Younghoe Koo. They went 6-2 in games decided by 7 points or fewer, and their largest victory came by 8 points over the Panthers, who had Cam Newton and PJ Walker at quarterback. Okay. Now, this part I think is a little bit fair. There generally seems to be some regression to the mean when you see numbers like that. When you are 6-2 in games decided by 1 score or less, that bodes really well for you. It's tough to do that year over year over year, especially when you are a team that isn't as talented as others. Like you would expect the Chiefs to have good records in 1-score games every year. You would expect the Packers to do it. You would expect the Ravens. You would expect the Steelers. You would expect the Bills now, right? These are teams that you would think year after year, anybody quarterbacked by Tom Brady for that matter, that have high-level quarterback play, that have good defenses, win close games. Because that's the difference between being 8-8, 9-8 now, and 12-5. Those 4 games is winning the close games. You go 2-6, the Falcons look like a dramatically different team last year. Even if you go 3-3, or in this case, what were they, 4-4? You lose 2 more games, you're a 5-12 team last year instead of a 7-10 team, and things look dramatically different. Now, he does say that 3 of those 7 victories came over backup quarterbacks. Trevor Siemian started for the Saints, Tim Boyle for the Lions. They can't control what other teams do. But their average win came by 4.7 points. Their average loss was nearly 18 points. I get all these numbers are bad, and there's some truth to them. They have got to be able to keep those things under control this year if they hope to be anywhere near as competitive as they were last year. What I don't agree with is this, and I'll tell you that in a second. But first, a word from our friends at BetOnline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. Folks, NFL coming up right around the corner. If you are even thinking about starting to gamble, BetOnline.net is where you got to go to get all of your information. Of course, you can always come to me. I will help you as well. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource outside of me. For all your sports wagering information from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they've got you covered. Head to BetOnline today. We'll use your mobile device to learn more about the action that is happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, now back to Bill Barnwell's column. Here's what I don't like that Bill Barnwell seems to imply. And he goes through the whole idea of the offseason and talking about flirting with Deshaun Watson, losing Russell Gage, Foye Oluokun, having to trade Matt Ryan. Okay, there you go. But he then starts to talk about the other teams in the NFC South. Tom Brady comes back. The Saints get Jameis Winston at quarterback. He even wrote that the Panthers land an upgrade on Sam Darnold at quarterback and Baker Mayfield. Is it really an upgrade? Oh, dear Lord. Anyway, so then he talks about Calvin Ridley getting suspended. And he says it's not all doom and gloom for the Falcons. They have a beautiful stadium. Oh, bite me. It is a nice stadium. But quarterback A.J. Terrell, one of the best in the league. Kyle Pitts will join him this year. Marcus Mariota was a reasonable plan B. We may see Desmond Ridder at some time. And the final paragraph. With that being said, the Falcons are likely going to be the worst team in the league this season. Smith was furious at suggestions his team was tanking this season. I take him at his word. I don't think the Falcons are going to be tanking because they aren't trying to lose on purpose. It'll just end up looking that way. I disagree. I genuinely disagree. I don't think this team will be as uncompetitive as they are forecasting. I mean, can the defense get worse? I suppose theoretically it could, but I doubt it. Couldn't get much worse than what they were last year. Now, they've got to limit big plays. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They have to find a way to not get beat in big plays. By the way, a quick little shout out to Neek, who tweets at the real Patman, who was listening to Locked On here, A to Z, and we talked about big plays a couple of weeks ago when he pulled some data for Pro Football Reference. We talked about big plays from the offensive side, by the way. And when you look at the teams that the Falcons play this year, and you see the teams that had big playability, Arizona and a lot of these NFC West teams, by the way, Arizona, the Rams, the 49ers, even the Seahawks last year were a good team with big playability, mostly because of DK Metcalf. But, this is something that they're going to have to limit. If this team is going to get better and be competitive, they've got to limit big plays. But I just have a hard time believing that Arthur Smith, and this is what really does it for me. If Arthur Smith takes a major regression step backwards, I don't think anybody's going to fault him for it. It would just be very surprising to me. I don't see it. I don't see 6-11 as a major step backwards. They only win 3 or 4 games. That's a major step backwards. Winning 3 or 4 games has you in the top 3 in the NFL draft. If that's where the Falcons end up, I'm going to be mildly surprised. I just don't see it. I think they're better than that. I think Arthur Smith has them better prepared than that. And so from that standpoint, I disagree, and I think the article is rather insulting, just to be perfectly honest with you. All right, coming up next, we will dive into the Braves' upcoming schedule. When could they likely take over first place in the NL East? That's next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta.